Hel- Hello and welcome to the Women Racing to Win. Joe here from the Grid Network, along with Daniel from the Racers, the girls behind the helmet. A lot to talk about today, and especially W Series testing. A lot of information will go to Daniel for W Series testing.
Good morning, everyone in the US, and good afternoon if you're here in Europe. As you said, Joe, it's a pretty big moment for W Series because, of course, they last raced in Brands Hatch in 2019 in August. Then in September they had the selection program, the selection process for the 2020, what would have been the 2020 season. Of course, we all know now that that season has been cancelled for the coronavirus pandemic because, of course, being such an international series, they could not had the opportunity to fly all the drivers, international drivers, to and basically have an international series, especially in their second season. So like 2 years after the last race, W Series has hit the track this week in Anglesey, north of Wales. So it's here we can see some of the pictures here with Fabian Volvend in this very scenic track. It's on the coastal of Wales. It's not a circuit that is massively used for racing, but it's pretty popular also for some TV series and testing programs with racing cars and street cars. And W Series ultimately decided to go there to test for the 5-day collective testing that is currently underway. They are now in their 4th day. And third in actual running, because yesterday it was media day and they didn't have track time scheduled. Well, they had 2 dry days in Monday and Tuesday. Today it's raining quite a lot, so drivers had a little bit of a more calmer day this morning. Because of the rain, and now they should be on track right now for the afternoon session. But first, let's start from who is not there. Me, for example, as the W Series decided to have the test closed to media. But jokes aside, Tasmin Pepper is not there. The Australian 31-year-old racer. She's the only full-time driver that is not in Wales testing right now. And we first learned about that on last Friday, because I got in touch with pretty much most of the drivers to learn a little bit how the preparation was going. And of course, I said that I couldn't be there because of the restrictions to media. And Tasmin said, "Guess what? I will not be there either, because I have a travels restrictions for the UK." And she went to the Maldives, trying to go around that restriction from South Africa. But it turns out that 2 days prior to the flight to the UK, also the Maldives have been put into the new red list of the UK government. So she didn't make the UK, and she will not be testing. It's a difficult situation here. We can see also Tasmin. It's a difficult situation because we have to understand if she can indeed make it for the first race, which is not far away now. It's just 40 days from now. Even though the everything is still very much in a fluid situation. Also the calendar, and we will talk about this in a moment. Then there are 3 new drivers entering. One is Gaucher Dest and the other is Caitlin Wood. The 2 2019 drivers that were not confirmed into the top 12 at the end of the season. They missed the cut by 1 point, Caitlin, and 2 points, Gaucher. So definitely they were up there and fighting for. I think there were 4 drivers fighting for the final 2 places in the very last laps in Brands Hatch. And the other 2 were Sabre Cook and Jessica Hawkins, that did make on par, on point, and Gaucher and Caitlin were unfortunately out. But now W Series is bringing them back. It's still not clear if they have chances to come back to the actual races as racing drivers, but maybe, then this is speculation, they could be back as reserve drivers, like Vivian Ketzelli and Sarah Bovy were in the first season. But this is all speculations. W Series has not confirmed anything so far. And the other driver that has been invited to the test is Abby Pulling, the 18-year-old from the UK. She's a young star in the British Formula 4 Championship. We have reported from races. She's definitely fighting for the championship this year in Formula 4, so it did make sense for W Series to invite Abby to the test, who is also coached by fellow W Series race winner Alice Powell. Now we see some of the drivers testing now in Wales. Of course, there's also an interesting news for Puma, one of the founding partners of the W Series, that have designed and tailored a specially race suit, which is the first race suit completely designed for the female body. Which is something interesting also because of the market. I think it will be growing with more and more female drivers coming up the ranks in both in karting and in single seater. So that's an interesting new feature to show in what is currently the top environment for women drivers, which is the W Series.
Very exciting. I know one of the big things, of course, just looking at the racetrack, it is just some of the most beautiful scenery for a lot of folks just seeing on social media as they're seeing the pictures of the racetrack. It was just like getting a lot of media attention. Definitely, I think, very exciting for the W Series, just for the upcoming season to get ready and to have all the drivers on the track again is, of course, a big, exciting deal for 2021 W Series. They had a little bit of a change when it came to the schedule. It's going to be a very exciting schedule still overall, but a couple of changes that include especially that first race. That first race was originally going to be at France, site of the French Grand Prix race weekend for Formula One. Now, of course, Formula One, that race has been moved up a couple of weeks due to the cancellation of Turkey, as well as the cancellation of the Canadian Grand Prix, which Turkey was slated to replace. With the changes, the Austria Red Bull Ring is now going to be hosting Formula One for 2 weekends, including that June 26th weekend. So W Series will start their season at Austria, and it will be a double header. Since Formula One will be racing there the following weekend, so will the W Series. So the first time a double header for the W Series. This is going to be very exciting. Silverstone will be the third round. Hungarian Ring will round out the first 4 races. Then we have Spa-Francorchamps, Zandvoort, Circuits of America, Austin, Texas, and Mexico City, the final 4 races in the 8-race schedule. So it's definitely going to be a really exciting year overall. Plenty of racing, and of course, with Formula One at the area, that is going to add on to the excitement. Daniel, we've seen doubleheader racers, especially in the pandemic. In the United States, we've seen them very common, especially NASCAR. You've been doing them, IndyCar. For the W Series drivers, what of a unique challenge is this going to present to the drivers?
Well, you're bringing up a good point. I think it makes sense for W Series to start the season in Austria rather than in France, because of course they're gaining 1 week because of course they are still a startup championship, only in their 2nd season on track, and having the calendar change and having actually to get ready for racing 1 week earlier than expected. I think that would have been a problem for W Series, and to get ready for Paul Ricard 1 week on the 20th of June. So I think it makes sense for the series to start on what has been the initial date, but in Austria. On the other hand, for drivers, a little bit more challenging, because most of them, well, many of them have been testing at Paul Ricard. They have been preparing for the first race. I know, for example, Marta Garcia was there testing in a Formula 3 Tattoos car a couple of weeks ago. So definitely they have invested in preparation for the Paul Ricard track, and now the first round basically has been scrapped in favor of a doubleheader in Austria. Of course, they were supposed to race at the Red Bull Ring, and it's not actually the very first doubleheader for W Series, because of course in 2018 they had 2 rounds in 2 races in Assen. Even though the second race was a non-championship race, it was an experiment with the full reverse grid. But yeah, I think it makes sense. Why it makes sense for the championship, it poses a little bit of a more challenging stuff for drivers, because most of them were preparing for Paul Ricard, and some of them had also tested and went there, and so it also invested some money into it.
You bring up a good point about the drivers that tested there. Of course, we know drivers like Jamie Chadwick, a lot of experience racing and Paul Ricard last year especially. So definitely this is something where when it comes to the W Series, it could be a big equalizer for everybody. I think some of the drivers that could easily benefit from a doubleheader type weekend might be somebody like Sabri Cook. Sabri Cook, of course, in the United States, doubleheaders have become a lot more common, and especially sometimes even the following day we've seen races. IndyCar does it, a lot of the support series. So it's going to be really exciting to see how all the drivers in the W Series are going to adapt to this unique schedule change, and definitely encourage everyone to be sure to subscribe to the Grid Network all season long for W Series content, and of course, all racers, the girls behind the helmet. We're not done yet, and of course, one of the drivers we've been following a lot on the Al Kabasi, and of course, Maya Wig, who are both raced this past weekend with Italian Formula 4 and Euro Formula S.
Yes, exactly. I was there in Paul Ricard in the south of France to follow the first round of the 2021 Italian Formula 4 Championship. It's the second full season for Hamda Al Khubaisi, the 18-year-old Emirati driver. Here she is, and you can definitely follow her on her social media pages. She is the most successful female driver in all Formula 4 championship globally. She has won 6 races in Formula 4 in the Emirates, which is a pretty competitive winter series where lots of drivers now are racing in the Italian, in the German, and in the British Formula 4 Championship go to prepare during the winter. So Hamda definitely want to watch, and she proved it. Let's say that in the first round in the Italian Formula 4, which is this year really the most competitive feeder series globally, I believe. And here is a picture I took of Hamda last weekend. There were 40 cars, 37 cars on track, so massive grid, very competitive. The whole field really tight from first to last. I think it was like something like 2 seconds. So very, very competitive grid. Of almost 40 cars. Hamda was great in practice and in testing, and I think she is proving that she can be competitive in around the top 10 in every round of the season this year. In testing, she was also again in P11, so around those positions where I think she can really battle, and also at some rounds like the Red Bull Ring and Monza that she knows a little bit better. I think she can also be into the top 5 or even a podium maybe this year. So definitely one of the most interesting drivers that we will be following this year, Hamda Al Khubaisi. She had a nightmare of a weekend at Paul Ricard, because after a very good start in practice, she couldn't put a lap together in qualifying. Of course, with so many cars, it's really difficult to get a clean lap. And I think she also felt a little bit of pressure after she knew that she could have been up there fighting for the top 10. And she qualified P19 in race 1, and she was P13 for race 2 and P12 for race 3. So not the qualifying that she expected. And coming to the races, of course, starting a little bit from the midfield in the first race, she had quite a little of a challenging race. She had a spin while she was recovering. She was also almost back into the top 10, but she had a spin and damaged her tires, and had a very challenging first race. And in the second one, she had an even worse one in in the second lap, I believe. She had another contact. Another car went on the curb pretty heavily. And displaced the bollard, which hit Hamda's car and broke her front wing. So she had to pit and change her front wing. Of course, with so many cars, she was down the order, like in P36. She did manage to recover to P27. She was lapping pretty competitively. I mean, on lap times, she definitely proves that she can be up there. And then she was caught into another accident towards the end. So a messy race for Hamda, who is now racing this year in the Prema Power Team official team. While last year she was racing with Iron Lynx. And in the third one, she had the best race of the weekend. She was starting P12, and then she moved up into P8 pretty early on. The race saw a couple of safety cars. It was pretty heavily interrupted with so many cars. The contacts are pretty much happening lap after lap. And again, very unfortunately, towards the end, another contact, another collision while she was trying to make a move for P7. I think she retired because it was on the last lap, or 2 laps to go. So it didn't make much sense to come back to the pits and rejoin. So she just retired the car. She was very disappointed, obviously. Because she has the pace, she can be up there, but just didn't happen this weekend in Paul Ricard. The second very interesting driver that we are following this year in Formula 4, in the Italian Formula 4 Championship, is Maja Weug. Maja, of course, was a karting superstar in Europe. She's from Dutch and Belgian parents, and they're living in Spain, so already a very international lady. She's 16-year-old, and she's racing for Iron Dames with Iron Lynx. And of course, she made headlines because she is now part of the Ferrari Driver Academy program. She won the contract with the FIA Women in Motorsport Rising Star project after the selections, and she's now making her debut in car racing at Paul Ricard. It was her very first race in car racing after karting, and she did amazingly. I mean, she qualified P26, again on almost 40 cars, and she constantly improved the session after session. She was in the first race, she finished in P20, so a top 20. She was definitely in the midfield, right in the midfield in the first race. And P5 among the rookies, which is a really, I would say, important classify for her. And yeah, she was P20 after the first race, and also improved even more in the second one. She was P19, constantly making improvements. And she said that she wasn't super happy about the first two races, because of course there were still other drivers in front of her. But as a rookie in such an important championship, in such a competitive one, I would say that definitely being in the midfield was great for her. She showed great racecraft also in wheel-to-wheel battles. And actually, in the last race, in race 3, she was a P15 and second among the rookies. And also she was a protagonist of a photo finish, 4-wide finish at the end, and she did manage to get ahead of those 4 cars. So some pretty good racecraft for Maja Weug. And we are super excited to see her coming back to Formula 4 for the second round in Misano. Also racing in Paul Ricard was the Formula 3 Euroformula Open Championship, where Vivian Ketzelli is racing there, the former W Series racer. Here she is, Hungarian, and she is racing with Motopark in Euroformula. It's her first season in the championship, and actually it's her first season in full season in single seaters, because she was pretty successful GT racer. At only 17, she was vice champion in the Audi R8 LMS championship. And here she is. And she did complete a partial campaign in W Series in 2019, but then this year is racing full-time in Euro Formula. And in testing, she was very competitive. She was in the top 5 in Barcelona, and then had a pretty good race at the debut in Portimao in Portugal, where she claimed a P9 and a P10. While on the other hand, in Paul Ricard, she had a massively challenging race weekend, and she was P10 in the first race, so still scored points in the first race, but struggled a little bit on pace. I think the team just went in the wrong direction with their setup, and they will be working hard for the next weekend in Spa-Francorchamps, where she has already tested, and also the fourth round is coming up is Budapest, her home track, where she knows perfectly. So I would say that there is some good promises for Vivian Ketzelli coming into the remaining part of the Euro Formula Open campaign.
One of the big challenges, of course, anytime brand new team, we see it in all levels, whether it's the local track or even at the top level, Formula One, NASCAR Cup Series. It's always a challenge just trying to get that combination, that chemistry just right, and to get everything going. So definitely one of those things where, next upcoming races, hopefully for seeing some turnaround. One of the big things we're seeing, Moto E, Maria Herrera. She scored points in the first Moto E race at Jerez. That was despite an arm pump pain, the same kind of pain that Fabio Quartararo experienced in his race, where he lost the lead and fell out of the top 10 even. Maria finished ninth in that race. Still, after the race, after the points, to address that, she went ahead and got surgery for the arm pump pain. Same surgery that we've seen Jack Miller take, Fabio Quartararo, and many motorcycle riders take to address that pain, especially since they're using so much strength and energy to muscle those bikes around. 10 days after that surgery, back on track, France Ducati circuit. Of course, this track known for not only MotoGP's French Grand Prix, but of course the bigger circuit, the entire 8-mile, 24 hours of Le Mans. The first couple practices were in the dry weather conditions. She came home 14th, was overall towards the back of the pack when it came to the practice sessions. However, qualifying, just like MotoGP saw, the rain, that brought the big challenge. The drama we saw as riders were going down, it became almost hard, just about impossible to try to lay down a good lap. Plenty of penalties as drivers were falling out, track violation limits. Maria Herrera, she had a penalty as well too, so she had to start Sunday's race in the back row. This is going to make it for a real challenge, especially a lot of uncertainty about Sunday's weather. And Sunday's weather, we saw those gusty winds. We saw how the weather was changing constantly. For the race time was moved up. So it was a little bit earlier, 3:30 local time. Maria from the last row, what an impressive ride. Started working her way towards the front. Before you knew it, she was in the top 10 already. We saw plenty of action riders trying to handle everything with the bikes, the elements, and of course with Moto E bikes. It's a really unique challenge. One of the big things when it comes to the electric vehicles or bikes, you don't have a lot of sensations with a petrol vehicle. With a petrol vehicle, you could almost have that sense of when the vehicle's revving up, the power transfer. Electric vehicles, it's all sort of solid state and it's very responsive to throttle and everything. So this is a big challenge for everybody. Wet weather condition, and for Maria, putting together a great top 10 effort again, 9th place finish. So that means in the first 2 rounds of Moto E, 2 top 10 finishes. So as the other riders are being inconsistent, not scoring point the first race or the second race, Maria, 2 races in, 2 9th place finishes. If she continues this consistency, she could easily work her way up the top of the Moto E standings. Of course, top 5s, podiums will, of course, even be more helpful for any championship effort. But definitely a pretty impressive start for the 2021 season for Maria. Very exciting. And of course, we have several upcoming races this weekend that we're pretty excited about.
Oh, definitely. And first, if there's still time, let me just very, very quickly say that massive congratulations to Jessica Hawkins, the W Series driver that has been yesterday announced as the new Aston Martin Formula One team development driver. Well, actually, ambassador driver, as they say. It's the second W Series driver that has been announced in a Formula as part of a Formula One team after Jamie Chadwick in 2019 with Williams. So again, really interesting stuff coming out of W Series. But yeah, let's go to the upcoming races. Pretty big weekend again. NASCAR will be racing at Circuits of the Americas for the first time with the Truck Series. Hailie Deegan, Jennifer Jo Cobb, and also Michelle Abate is attempting to race there. Also always in the US, there will be the qualifying for the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500 with Paretta Autosports Simona Di Silvestro coming back to the US to attempt the qualifying for her Indy 500. Coming into Europe, another important racetrack, Monaco. The Monaco GP is back after 2019, after 2 years basically. And the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine will be racing as a support series this weekend, with Lena Buller, of course, being on track. Belen Garcia is not on track because, of course, she's she's testing with the W Series in Wales. British Formula 3 is starting its 2021 campaign in the UK with Rima Jafali, the first ever Saudi Arabian female racing driver. Will switch from Formula 4 to Formula 3. She is racing now in British Formula 3, and also the British GP, the British GT will be also racing there with Katie Milner. She is a McLaren young driver, and she will be racing for Jenson Button's team in British GT. And also we will have the Italian GT racing in Pergusa in Sicily, where Kerry Schreiner will be returning to the championship after pretty successful first round in Monza, where we were also reporting from the track. Finally, the 24-hour series will host the Hockenheim 12-hour race with Samantha Tan, Jasmine Preissig, Manuela Gosner, and Corinna Gosner racing in Germany. Now we see all the drivers appearing here on the screen, with Samantha Tan racing in GT4 and being very competitive in that class. She is she's leading the class so far, so definitely going to be interesting to follow the race in Hockenheim this weekend. And those will be the races that we'll be following this weekend.
And we encourage everyone to follow racersbehindthehelmet.com for all the information on the upcoming races, as well as great articles from each race weekend, interviews, great team over there. And of course, Grid Network, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss this program anytime we're on the air. And of course, we're going to be on the air Saturday. And of course, when the W Series be racing, we'll be previewing the W Series race as well. For Daniel at Racers, the Girls Behind the Helmet, I'm Joe Sandiego. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the races. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Poblis. Poblis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Poblis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.